Revolutions are not caused by politicians. We are not very far. We are this near towards a random guy just rising among Kenyans and trigger a revolution.
Yes, it is very possible and it can happen, and it will happen anytime.
If in a very near future, if people continue the way I'm seeing this wave going, ati content creators wanaamuka, mtu afanyangi content ya politics, hata wapendi hata waongeangi politics juu wanasemanga politics itaharibu channel yao. Sijui ati watu watasema huyu ni waazimio, huyu ni wanini. Sitaki kuongea politics. Today even pastors wanaongea kuhusu finance bill. It means there is a certain way in which Kenyans are changing. Vindu vichenjanga. Even if it will take long, it will not take forever.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Don't forget to like this video, share and comment. This is Kim Explains.
Leo nasikia Taua kujakalika kwa sababu ya maandamano. Ati Wakenya wameamua round hii lazima Zakayo washuke. Na kweli Zakayo wameshuka
bila Raila. Anashuka bila Raila.
Yaani unataka kuniambia watu wanaweza kuwa na power kiasi hiyo? Watu wanaweza kuja pamoja wakiwa na common interest.
When the people have a common interest.
There's a lady nimeona kwa hiyo maandamano alikuwa amekamatwa. So alienda akajishikilia kwa side mirror ya gari na akasema ashikui tena. Ashikui na mtu na haendi mahali. She's fighting for her rights. Actually na msichana finally there were 3 police officers. Walikuwa wanajaribu kumshika lakini walishindwa kumshika kwa sababu ali-attract attention ya watu.
Exactly.
So nikajua kweli watu wakiwa na a common interest watu wanaweza pigana.
Kitu ya kwanza naweza sema Wakenya wamechoka so far.
Wamechoka.
Maisha inawafinya bwana. Hata mimi niko Kenya na pia mimi na feel. So nasema tumechoka. So tukipata ile kitu yenye inaweza to motivate ama inaweza to mobilize against what is inatufinyilia, tutaamka. Na tutafanya kitu kubwa sana by the way. Itaanza kitu kidogo sana but itainuka ikiwa kitu kubwa sana.
Unafikiria Kenya kunaweza kuwa na revolution?
Sana. Ya Wakenya.
Nataka tukue na hiyo discussion lakini kwanza wacha tukaribisha watazamaji. So wale ambao wanatutazama karibuni sana kwa hii kipindi. Sijui kama tunaita Kim Explains ama tunaita Kim ama tunaita nini. But generally this is a conversation we are having about the current situations in Kenya, especially political, because politics has been our food.
Yeah, it is
affecting everybody. It is affecting everything. Watu wana complain kila siku na mchana. Zakayo amekatalia kwa mti. For this great conversation, karibuni sana wale ambao mnatutazama na asanteni sana kwa wale ambao wanaendelea kusubscribe na ambao mnatupatia moyo wa kuendelea kukua na hizi conversations. Na hata kama uko hapo na ungetaka tukuhost, call us, go to our inboxes, enda kama una watch kwa YouTube, kwa description utapata namba yetu, utapata kuna email. Come let us have a conversation about issues especially political that you think you would have an insight ama ungetaka kuwa na conversation. But today we are having a conversation around the finance bill, but not necessarily details of the finance bill, because hiyo watu wameongelea sana in mainstream media, in social media. Miona watu wakiguza some of the things that are very touching in that finance bill. But I want us to talk about today and what has happened today. Kama vile nilikuwa nimekuuliza my friend, nimesahau hata kuambia jina yangu.
Watanijua tu with the time. So, watanizoea.
Kwangu mimi naitwa Kim. My friend here is called Dennis.
You can call me Elder. Still is my name.
He is my co-host on this show. We shall be having conversations kadhaa, hata ukikuja utampata na we hope for the best going forward. So I was asking you, Dennis, do you think Kenya a revolution inaweza fanyika without politicians if you consider what has happened today?
Yes, it is very possible and it can happen, and it will happen anytime.
Sasa ukifika hapo unajua nafanya kama mwalimu wangu wa history alikuwa ananiambia, ni wa history ama ni wa English, that a revolution can happen in Kenya without a politician.
Exactly.
Full stop. Elaborate. 40 marks.
Alright, though.
Wacha nisikie utapata marks ngapi? Elaborate.
Marks
15
utapata
marks.
beyond 15. Nitago beyond 15. The first place when let me say start by saying that kuna kitu moja inaweza sukuma wa Kenya walete revolution. Kitu ya kwanza ni the hali ya maisha. Ukiangalia kwa sasa kila mtu analia kuhusu hali ya maisha imekuwa ngumu. Pesa wa Kenya wapati pesa, ile kidogo inapatikana inakujiwa. Yani unapata kama imekujiwa, unaelewa? Anakuja tu, yani hata ingine haifiki kwako. It is your earning but hata ikufiki. Kitu ya pili, angalia wale wenye wanafanya biashara. Wana biashara wanalia. Hata wao wanafinywa. Unajua wao wakifinywa nao wana transfer hiyo kufinywa kwa ule consumer. Na consumer kama hana hela hataenda kwa business kununua kitu. So that means biashara pia inaanguka. Na ikianguka mwana biashara analala njaa. Another factor to look at. Angalia every now and again. ZAKAYO anakuja akiongezea. Unajua hata hili tungekuwa tunafinyika constantly, tunaenda tunazoea. But hii hata kabla tuzoee hii, ingine ina top up. Kabla uzoee hii, ingine inakuja. So unapata it is continuously oppressing us.
Okay.
So na tukifika mahali tuone it is beyond what we can hold, then kinalipuka. Na unajua kikilipuka hapa, akitalipuka tu hapa. Huyo akisikia kimelipuka huku, na kwao wana face the same problem, atanyamaza.
Atataka pia kwao kulipuka.
Hata huko kutalipuka.
I actually remember, I don't know whether it was in 2010 or just around there. In Tunisia. Tunisia kuna wakati waliface a similar situation kama yenye tuna face as Kenyans. You see, everybody is complaining about the cost of living, but the government seems to be blind, or it seems to give that conversation a deaf eye. A deaf ear and a blind eye. Yani wanajifanya ni kama tuna exist in our own world, and the government, those in government are existing in their own world. What happened in Tunisia is that serikali ilifinya through taxation, ikijaribu ku raise revenue ama kupata pesa kutoka kwa wananchi. To a point where it was impossible for even a hawker to exist in a market. At one time, one hawker, one guy, a random guy, a random hawker from the market, akaona hii mambo imekuja sana. What he did, that guy, alijichoma.
Sad.
Alijichoma, he put himself on fire. Actually, ukienda kwa Google utapata hiyo story. That story is very available online. Huyo jamaa alijichoma, and that is how the Tunisian revolution was born. It triggered two revolution, and the people, an uprising came up. If you look at Kenya, what is happening today, like what has happened to exactly today, most of the people who are demonstrating were not influenced by politicians.
They were not.
I agree. The same people wenye wamekuwa waki-influence watu ndo walikuwa wanaongoza watu, wakina Boniface Mwangi, the old political activist who sails with waves za politics, na mara nyingi huwa ana sail na opposition. So when he always opposes the government, huwa anajiita the people's watchman. Kuna Eric Omondi, we can see he has been all around doing his activism. Mpaka sasa ameachana na entertainment, sasa ameachana na comedy. Sasa kazi yake ni activism. So looking at that, I see a revolution very near. Karibu sana. Though how wanaweza kuwa sponsored maybe na politicians to chase a political goal or a political milestone, like maybe they have a dream to become politicians. We are not very far. We are this near towards a random guy just rising among Kenyans and trigger a revolution. Very close.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think if we had the Miguna we had back then, tungekuwa na revolution size?
You see, okay, I don't know how you would argue, but I would tell you that revolutions are not caused by politicians. As long as you are a politician or you have a political ambition, it might be difficult run a revolution, because then it will be a government takeover or maybe a shift of government from one political side to the other. Because if you look at Miguna, he has been in politics historically. He has been an advisor to the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Yeah.
So he has been involved in the politics of division and whatever has caused us to be where we are today. He has been part of the writing of the laws and policies that have made us to be where we are today.
Yeah.
And if you have been part of whoever wrote or put up the policies zenye zinatutesa leo, there is no way you can be a cure to us. There has to be somebody within or from among the current generation or from the generation that feels humiliated, the generation that feels what do I call it? Oppressed. There has to be somebody who wakes up mwenye hajawahi sikika so that people then can take it seriously. But politician akichukua,
it is a political,
the usual politics.
Yeah. And that one takes me to a point or to say that a revolution without a leader, a specific leader, does not die. You don't know that your leader is arrested. Anybody is a leader. So if you are leading, you are just shouting in front, and then you find yourself at the back, there is another person in the front line. So there is no leader at any moment.
Exactly.
So
that is how revolutions happened. It is not that tunakuwa na kamtu maybe tuko na forehead kamoja kenye kako mbele ako ndo kakisema tunasema.
It doesn't work that way.
Kakisema ruka tunaruka. So, let me tell you why in Kenya, especially politicians wakiongoza revolutions huwa hazi succeed. If you look at maandamano ya Raila Odinga,
yes,
mostly hizo maandamano huwa zina end up kuwa ni interest za Raila Odinga, even though huwa tuna end up kusema ni zina end up kubenefit Raila Odinga. Kwa sababu the government knows that if they touch the leader,
then it's over.
If they solve the problem of the leader of that maandamano, then it is done.
Yeah.
Hakuna maandamano ingine itafanyika.
But
for a real revolution, a real revolution yenye iko people's driven, there is no specific leader. So unless if we are rising up against the high cost of living, unless that high cost of living iende chini, watu hawezi rudi kwa nyumba.
That will be the leader.
Look at democracies like America. If they say that today we are closing the road,
they will cross.
Because you have said this and this to Trump, or because Biden has done this and this, the citizens of the US hawezi toka kwa barabara unless what they are protesting against is addressed.
Yes.
Because there is no specific leader who leads protests. It is people's driven. Sijui kama unanielewa. But for Kenya huwa tunaenda maandamano ama huwa tunaenda kwa sababu ya yule mtu mwenye ameitana. In fact, unapata Eric Omondi akiitana maandamano, hatuendi kuandamana kwa sababu tuko na ile shida Eric Omondi anatuitia. Tunaandamana tuende tukaone Eric Omondi.
Probably.
Mwingine anaitwa na Boniface Mwangi anaandamana ende akaone nani?
Boniface Mwangi.
Wengine wakiitwa na Raila wanaandamana wakaone Raila. Especially politicians wakiitwa na Raila wanaandamana waonekane wako side moja na Raila. It is not what is in the mind of Raila or in the mind of that people, revolutionary citizen who wants to protest or protestant. It is because they have other interests apart from what the citizens are going for.
Yeah.
So revolutions cannot succeed with politicians.
It won't.
It has never.
Now, this one takes us back to the question you had asked earlier. Can we have a similar revolution in Kenya? Can we have that kind of a revolutionary where we don't have a specific leader, that the people are leading? The people are leading the revolution.
I can tell you, it is possible to have a revolution in Kenya. People led, people driven. Because if you look at kama hii mambo ya finance bill, I can tell and I could see people protesting against the finance bill without possibly the input of the usual politician. Because mimi sijui kama Raila ameongea, but sijasikia akiwa akiongea kuhusu finance bill ama akiambia watu vile watafanya. But I have seen celebrities on social media, celebrities akina Jugush wana rise against the finance bill. In fact wanaichambua moja moja, wanakuambia hapa content creators hatujafanywa vizuri. I have seen Safaricom rising against the finance bill. Safaricom, a big company like Safaricom, wanasema hii finance bill ikipita
Hapana.
I have seen companies protesting against the details of the finance bill.
So that
I have seen Mama Mboga saying that ukiongeza bei ya mkate, this and this will not go well. So people are starting to interrogate the government.
Yeah.
And that is the beginning of a revolution. It is the beginning, even if it will take long, it will not take forever. A revolution will happen one day, one time. And I will tell you why.
If the condition continues like this.
Exactly. And a revolution is inevitable. We cannot run away from a revolution. Because one, I don't know whether you were keen in listening to people like Jimmy Wanjigi. You see, there's a conversation Jimmy Wanjigi na Okia Umtata wamekuwa nayo ya kusema kwamba the debts that we have, that we are being told by the government that Kenya owes our creditors, they are not true. If you look at what the parliament has passed to be taken or to be loaned to Kenya as debt versus what we are being told that our actual debt is, there's a very huge deficit. And the reason why serikali ina tax watu hivi ama the reason why serikali inafinya watu na hizi mataxes zenye hazi make sense, these punitive taxes, is because they are telling us that they have loans to pay. They're spending over, the last time I checked it was over 80% of the revenue being collected. So they were left with less than 20% for everything else. The recurrent expenditure, development and everything that comes on our way. So that means that every 100 shillings that they're taking from you, they're using 80 shillings to pay off debts, and then the 20 shillings is what they're supposed to
spend on the Kenyans, whatever.
Now, what they're trying to tell us is was it not for these 80%, then we would not be taxing you. But people like Jimmy Wanjigi, and I don't know why he's not I don't know why his conversation is not popular enough. Jimmy Wanjigi is telling you that this debt, you know, the people who speak for us are members of parliament. If you read Article 1 of the Constitution, it tells you that you are the supreme power belongs to the people.
To the people,
You are
we are represented.
That power belongs to you. And you can either exercise it directly or indirectly. And indirectly means that you exercise it through your elected representatives. So every bill, every budget passed in parliament, every loan approved by the parliament is assumed to be approved by the Kenyans. And that is why Kenyans are liable to pay loans approved by parliament. Jimmy Wanjigi is saying, or he was saying, and I have not seen him of late, he was saying that these debts are not as much as what the government is telling you.
So that means
because the government has not approved, the parliament, which is the people's representative, did not approve the biggest share of this money that is making us to be oppressed.
So probably
if Kenyans wake up, question the government, ask questions, where are the approvals for these loans, and then we lack, it will be we will declare instantly an automatic sovereign default. Okay, if that is not declared a sovereign default, because the government is still taking more loans, it means the uptake for money to pay off loan will increase, which means they will need to tax us more. Imagine a situation where you are taxed more than how you are being taxed today. What will happen to most Kenyans?
Right now.
An uprising, and that is how a revolution is born.
So that means in the short coming future, if
in a very near future, if people continue the way I'm seeing this wave going, ati content creators wanaamuka, mtu afanyangi content ya politics, hata wapendi hata waongeangi politics juu wanasemanga politics itaharibu channel yao. Sijui ati watu watasema huyu ni waazimio, huyu ni wa nini. Sitaki kuongea politics. Today even pastors wanaongea kuhusu finance bill. It means there is a certain way in which Kenyans are changing. Vindu
vichenjanga.
Vitu
And that one reminds me where you have a situation where you can contain a dog that is ile dog mwoga sana. If you contain it in a corner that it cannot run away, the end results will be biting you. Exactly. It will have to bite you.
Exactly. Umbo hata akiwa mwoga aje.
Yani the moment umemcontain to a space that
he turns defensive.
It will turn defensive.
Exactly.
And the moment that one happens, that becomes the most dangerous.
You will understand that the dog is not actually coward.
Ndio ile inasemekana ukishafika yani mwisho wa woga, yani at the end mali unafika kuwa mwoga zaidi. When you don't have another alternative, that is where your strength starts. Hapo ndio strength yako inaanzia.
So I think Kenyans are learning and they are coming to appreciate the fact that we are not very far away from a revolution.
It's only
if the government does not change its ways. And this is a message you are sending to the people in government. If you do not need a revolution, because revolutions are never good for the country.
Yeah, they are never good.
Yes, it might be good for you. Okay.
For the people,
I don't want to discuss
the end results will be a good one. But now the process of now stabilizing after that revolution, it will be a problem.
Becomes hectic. I remember there is a time, you know the story of the Talibans in which country is this? The Talibans in Afghanistan. There's a revolution that happened there a few years ago. I think few months, not years. And they were complaining that the cost of living was expensive. And some people were telling them that the reason why your cost of living is expensive is because your exchange rate between your Afghani currency, they use a currency called Afghani, versus the dollar, they're using a lot of Afghanis to exchange with the dollars. So what the government did is that after that revolution, after the Taliban took over, they passed some policies that somehow incriminated holding of dollars in their country. Eventually, after around 1 year, the Afghani was the best performing currency, I think, in the world. Best performing. However, that did not change the lifestyle of the citizens, because then restricting the entrance of the dollar into the country, restricting the use of the dollar in their country, then restricted how many people can agree to trade with them, because they cannot accept the Afghani is not an internationally accepted currency. Their internationally accepted currency is
the dollar.
Hugely the dollar. So if you don't want us to bring the dollars in your country, how do we trade with you? Yet we cannot take your cheap your Afghani currency. So eventually, instead of the goods were cheap, food was cheap, but the country. You don't have the money. It is cheap, but it's like me telling you that today the cost of unga is 50 bob per kg,
and you don't have money.
But then you don't have that 50 bob.
Even if I tell you it's 10 bob and you don't have that 10
bob, you can't afford.
You can't afford.
But if I tell you that the cost of unga is 100 bob,
and you have
double the price I told you, but you have the money, you cannot sleep
with no food in there.
You cannot sleep hungry.
So that means
revolutions sometimes they will help at times, because you will eventually form your government, a people's accepted government, and you will send away the oppressive government that you are rising against. But eventually the process of now recovering from the time of revolution to the time of stability, it takes a lot of sacrifices, and that is what I cannot pray for Kenya. I don't want to see Kenya having a revolution and leading to that direction. I think that is something I would not wish to see in my country.
Sure.
Please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Don't forget to like this video, share and comment. This is Kim Explains.